Hello everyone, my name is Jennifer Walker-Zen. I'm a psychic intuitive and I've been reading tarot since I've been 14 years old. I have a very special interview today for you guys. Now, for those of you that are in the know about astrology, this person that I brought on is going to blow your mind. I feel very blessed to have them on my channel, and you guys are really going to enjoy this. We have done a series of videos together, so you're going to see not only this video, but there's going to be other ones we're going to release. But the first topic we're going to talk about deals with relationships and really makes a marriage work or not work, okay? And the person that I brought on for you guys today, I'm really excited to introduce James Braha. This individual has been teaching astrology for a long time. They've been able to marry Western astrology and Vedic astrology. So if you really want to bump up your astrology game, this is the person to learn from. He has multiple books, and I'll show all the books and classes that you can take. So, and I've learned a lot from him. So if you guys are interested, definitely check out the link below, and you're really going to enjoy this interview. And please, guys, show your support for him. And if you guys like it this way, you want me to continue this way, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments below. All right, let's get to the interview.
Marriage and relationships. I use the chart of Charlie Chaplin because he has, now in each class, I actually use 3 or 4 horoscopes, sometimes 5 or 6, just focusing on that house and a little bit on the chart as a whole. But Charlie Chaplin has the sun exalted in Aries in the 7th. Mars in its own sign in Aries in the 7th. Now, those are powerful because the sun's exalted and Mars is in its own sign, but they're malefics. They are malefics. They're not good for marriage. But Moon and Venus are aspecting them. Venus is in the same house with Sun and Mars, and Moon is aspecting the Sun and Mars. So it's an incredible chart for marriage. And Mars, which is in 21 degrees Aries in its own sign, is 4 degrees away from Venus. Beautiful, artistic. He had 4 marriages and 1 disaster that wasn't married, but it was another like a marriage. They were all actresses. They were all gorgeous because the 7th ruler, Mars, is right next to Venus, and it's aspected by the moon within 4 degrees. So all of this is looking really great. He's got these tremendously beautiful, youthful, gorgeous actress wives, and then he has these massive scandals. He gets a girl pregnant. She's under 17 or something. Okay, so this is because Saturn in his horoscope is in the 10th house in Cancer, aspecting the Mars, Sun, Venus in the 7th house. But it gets more specific. Hold on, it's a little windy here. Gets a little more specific. Yes, Saturn is aspecting the 7th house, but here's the key. Saturn is sitting in 21 degrees of Cancer. So when it's aspecting Aries, it's not only aspecting its fallen sign. Saturn is exalted in Libra, fallen in Aries. Saturn's not only aspecting its fallen sign, Saturn's in 21 degrees, hitting Mars, the 7th house ruler, which is also in 21 degrees. So the 7th ruler is fantastic with Venus, with moon, full moon. It's full moon, not just the moon, a full moon. But Saturn aspects the ruler in the fallen sign in the 21st degree, 1 degree away from its worst position. So this is how you have a complicated situation. And so many students that are taking the classes, they're saying, oh my God, now I'm starting to understand. It's complicated. It's complex. Even after this, you have to look at the Navamsha. Anyway, so that's what the classes are about.
I do have a question about that Saturn. Okay, so I have heard if Saturn is in the 10th house and it looks at the 7th house, it actually keeps you in a marriage. It keeps the marriage, like it's very hard to break the marriage if Saturn's looking at the 7th house. Would you say that's the case?
I would say to some extent, yes. The worst ones are the moon in the 7th house. The moon in the seventh house, the person that has it, their emotions are so strongly committed. You get together with a person with the moon in the seventh house, that marriage can go, it could be, if the horoscopes are indicating it's a bad marriage, that person almost cannot get out. They almost cannot get out because their emotions are so committed. With Saturn, let's take Saturn in the seventh house, which is bad for marriage, difficult for marriage. So if Saturn is in the seventh house, there's definitely going to be problems in marriage, in the first marriage for sure. And you have two possibilities with them that I see all the time. One, the person is suffering for 10, 15, 20 years before they get out because they can't get out because it's Saturn. The other is where the marriage lasts 10 days or 1 year or 1 year. It's like it's so bad and they're able to get out. So I don't know about Saturn aspecting the seventh doing that. It sounds like it might because Saturn, but where I really worry is when the moon is in the seventh because the person is so committed, which is good. It's good for marriage. In fact, when I'm doing horoscopes, it's really interesting. There's only 2 planets that are halfway decent in the marriage house, and it's the moon and Jupiter. Okay, you take the sun. The sun in the seventh house, the partner is bossy and strong-willed. They may be powerful and successful, but they're bossy and strong-willed. Not great for marriage. You take Mars in the seventh house. Partner could be aggressive, assertive. They could be a fireman. They could be a policeman, but there's going to be fighting and friction. You take Mercury in the seventh house. Mercury in the seventh house, first of all, if Mercury's in the seventh house or 7 houses away from the moon, we'll talk about that in a minute. When you're looking at marriage, you have to also look at the planets opposite the moon as a seventh house indicator because of the Chandra Lagna. I'll talk about that in a minute. So you have Mercury in the seventh house or Mercury 7 houses away from the moon. Mercury is dual. Mercury and moon are, the moon is waxing and waning, so it has a lot of numerous things. Mercury is dual. It rules the twins, the Gemini. So the Mercury in the seventh house, a likelihood of 2 great loves in the lifetime. A likelihood of 2 major loves in the lifetime. That's not so bad. The problem with Mercury in the seventh, or 7 houses away from the moon, is that the partner is likely to be fickle. In other words, the person with Mercury 7 houses away from the moon or in the 7th house, the person with that placement gets a partner where the relationship is very mental and intellectual and not emotional. So there's not enough glue to hold a marriage together when there's a problem. The glue isn't there. So Mercury's no, I don't like Mercury. Venus. When I came back from India, I said, what's the matter with these Indian astrologers? They don't like the passion of Venus? And then I started to see all the people with Venus in the 7th house. They get the most beautiful, gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous, drop-dead handsome partners. And they have affairs. There's too much passion. It's not that they always have affairs. It's that there's too much passion. What do I mean by that? Marriage is about compromise, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. You don't need that kind of passion. It gets in the way. So Venus in the 7th house very rarely is a good placement. Very rarely. So I don't really like that. Saturn, I don't like. Jupiter, I love. Jupiter in the 7th. Moon, I like. The partner will be nurturing, emotional, sensitive. The person may be special, especially if it's a full moon special, meaning whenever I say special, the client's saying, you mean like special needs? I go, no, special, good. So the moon in the 7th house is good, except if you're in a bad relationship, you can't get out. Very hard. Jupiter is fantastic. Jupiter in the 7th house, you say, ooh, that's the person I want, and you go get them. And these people think that's normal. They think, yeah, that's normal. I want that person. I go get them. No, here's how it works. I want that person. Oh, they don't want me. That's what usually happens. Jupiter, they get the partner they want. And Jupiter in the 7th house is even better for the person being empathetic than the moon. The moon in the 7th house makes a person empathetic. They're great therapists, they're great healers, they have empathy. People come to them with their problems. Jupiter, you mark this. Find people with Jupiter in the 7th house. Start talking to them about your problems. Start talking to them about anything. You will see they are the best listeners in the world. They listen. They're empathetic. You get a lot of therapists with Jupiter in the 7th, and you get a spiritual partner, and it's a happy marriage. Those are the only two planets that I like. So when you are looking for marriage, it is very, very, very complicated. It's not simple. You have the 7th house, the planets in the 7th, wherever the ruler of the 7th house is, what planets are aspecting the 7th. You have to do all of that. That's a lot to do. And then you have to do the same thing with the moon. Now, the moon, they call it Chandra Lagna, moon ascendant. So that's what they teach. And many astrologers will, after they look at the planets in the houses, they'll look at the chart from the point of view of the moon. Oh, look, Saturn's in the 10th from the moon, Mars is in the 3rd from the moon. I don't do that because I only use what I find works really well. If it doesn't work really well, I just don't use it. So I don't really look at Chandra Lagna so much because it doesn't do that much for me as a whole chart. But I tell you what, I will take all the money out of my wallet and bet you that if Mars is opposite the moon, there's going to be fighting in relationship. If Venus is opposite the moon, the partner's going to be an artist, romantic, beautiful. If Jupiter's 7 houses from the moon, partner's going to be spiritual, religious, philosophical. You've got, even if Ketu is 7 houses from the moon, partner's going to be Ketu-like. If Rahu's anything opposite the moon, it's just like having the planet in the 7th house. It's the same. Then you have to look at Venus. All of those things could be great. All of those things could be great. And Venus could be a train wreck. And if Venus is a train wreck, that's the karaka of marriage. Now that comes into play. And then you have to look at the Navamsha, the marriage chart. Now, if you're looking at the Navamsha, you have to be able to know whether these divisional charts, the Varga charts, are accurate. Because the marriage chart changes about every 17 or 18 minutes, and it depends where the birth time is within those 18 minutes. So you can't just use a Navamsha or a Dasamsha unless you can look and see, well, this person could go 5 minutes later in his birth time, 5 minutes earlier in the birth time, I can use it. If it's a chart where 1 minute earlier or 2 minutes earlier changes the Navamsha, you got to start asking questions. Yeah. So now I want to talk a little bit about composite charts, not synastry. Synastry is where you lay their chart over yours. So if your Venus is 10 Libra and their Saturn is 12 Libra, you got problems. That's a synastry. That works, but that's not the most powerful one for me. I use composite charts. And I use the composite chart that Robert Hand, there's different methods. I use the Robert Hand method, which is you're using the midpoints of the planets. So if my sun is 3 Aries and the other person's sun is 3 Libra, the middle point would be 3 Cancer, and that's where the sun is in the composite chart. The composite chart doesn't tell you anything about you or the other person. It just says what happens when the two of you come together. So if the composite chart is all fighting and friction, it means there's going to be fighting and friction. The man may not have fighting and friction in his chart. The woman may not have fighting and friction. But if the composite chart has it, that's going to go on. And with the composite chart, it's very hard to change it. In a natal chart, first of all, when I do a reading, I never expect more than 70, 75% accurate. People say, oh my God, everything you said was true and correct. Yeah. I figure 75 is good. But there's things in a horoscope where people can change, number one. Number two, Sometimes I will see the genetics. Like I'll say, are you a doctor? They go, no. I said, the chart's got medical all over it. They say, my mother's a doctor, my father's a doctor, my grandfather's. So it's in the genetics. Or the Indian charts, the Indians, they're all spiritual. All the Indian charts, they have spiritual stuff, but they're not necessarily doing the spiritual. It's just in their genetics. But in the natal chart, you may have something bad, but you may be able to work on it, to do self-improvement, to do therapy, to change it. Try changing a composite chart pattern. You can't do it. Because let's say that the composite chart has Pluto exactly opposite or squaring Venus. There's going to be a control manipulation element. Let's say the guy is manipulating and controlling. Let's say you get a hold of that guy and you say, look, Johnson, you got to stop this. You got to stop this. The person says, you know what? You're right. I'm going to stop it. You know what happens then? The woman assumes, the partner assumes, they start manipulating because the composite doesn't say anything about anybody. It says what happens when these two get together. So if you put two bad chemicals together, they're going to explode no matter what. There's no way to stop it. Okay, so I just want to tell you what I consider the deal breakers. So if somebody comes to me for a composite chart and they want to talk for an hour on the composite chart, I say go to Dennis Harness. He specializes in that. I said what I do is I'll do your natal chart with the dashas and bhuktis in the future, and I'll throw in the composite for free. But I'm not going to talk about it for long. 5-10 minutes, that's it. I'm looking for, does the relationship work? Can the relationship work? Some of them will be extremely strong love bonds. Some of them will be not so strong love bonds, but they're okay. They can still be together. And there's very good aspects and there's very bad aspects. These are the deal breakers. Saturn moon, conjunct, opposite, square. Now they have to be tight, within 3, 4, 5 degrees, but oftentimes you'll see them within 2 or 3 degrees. That's a deal breaker. What it means is, it means that neither person will get their emotional needs met. Saturn is restriction, moon is emotions. Neither of them will get their emotional needs met. And far worse, they can't break up. The Saturn moon keeps them together, so they can't break up. Okay, that's a bad one. The next one is Mars conjunct Saturn. Now, Mars square or opposite is going to be bad as well. But let's just take Mars conjunct Saturn. If I see a composite chart, so Mars Saturn means the timing is bad. Mars is desire, Saturn is restriction. When one person's hot, the other person's cold. The timing doesn't work. And they're going to live in, oftentimes when they come to me, I see Mars Saturn, I say, do you live in different cities? Do you live in different countries? Because the timing's no good. Now they're thinking that when we get married, then we'll move in together, we'll be in the same city and everything will be great. No, the Mars Saturn is the reason that they're in separate cities to begin with. The timing's never going to be any good. So Mars Saturn is not very good. Saturn Venus is not good because Venus is love and Saturn is restriction, obstacles, delays, and problems. The love, the romance is just dead. Now, very important, very important. The Sun Saturn is not so bad. Many people have the Sun Saturn conjunction. Okay? And what that means is both people are compromising. But as long as there's other features in the horoscope that are good, that's fine. I've had 2 marriages where Saturn is with the Sun, but there's also, and this one's for 35 years. The first one wasn't, 5 years. But the Saturn Sun keeps, it's glue. It keeps the people together. They're committed, and they both are willing to compromise.
Thank you guys so much for joining us for the interview, and stay tuned. There's more episodes to come with James, so please show your support by hitting that like button. Let me know in the comments below. I put his details in the description box below. I want to thank James again for coming onto my channel, and all of his details as far as if you want to get an astrology reading with him, if you want to get one of his books, or you want to take one of his classes, go in the link in the description box below. I'll also link it to the comments. I love you guys so much. And again, if you guys like it this way, you want me to continue this way, hit that like button. Let me know in the comments below. All right, my beautiful darlings, I will see you guys another day or two. Have a great rest of your next couple days, and I will see you guys soon.